Do you think being a pharmacist today is hard? Dealing with illegible prescriptions, impatient customers, and expensive medicines? Well, get ready to discover why you wouldn't last even a single day as an apothecary in the Middle Ages. There were no university degrees, there were live leeches, there were no antibiotics, there was fermented urine, there were no sterile laboratories, there were rats running among the medicine jars. And this is just the beginning of your journey through the stinking corridors of medieval medicine. Now relax, dim the lights, grab a blanket, and get ready for a time travel experience that will make you appreciate every single pill from the modern pharmacy. This is your medieval bedtime story. A hauntingly real journey through the dark alleys of ancient medicine. Take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you want, and let's begin. If you enjoy this different style of storytelling, leave a like, and comment where you're watching from and what time it is. I love knowing we're together on this time travel journey. It's midnight. You wake up in your bed, a wooden plank covered with straw that scratches your skin. The pillow? A rough cloth sack stuffed with chicken feathers that still smell like the chicken coop. Forget memory foam. Here, your body's memory will record every straw splinter poking your back. The first feeling of the day is itching. Everywhere. The room is pitch black. There's no electricity, not even real candles, just bits of animal tallow melting and dripping on the dirt floor. The smell? Imagine rancid pig fat mixed with mold. You get up and step barefoot on the cold ground. You feel something mushy between your toes. Best not to investigate. This is how your first day as a medieval apothecary begins. And you already want to quit, but you haven't even left the bed yet. Time to get ready. Forget the hot antibacterial soap shower. Your morning hygiene consists of wiping your face with a damp cloth, if you're lucky enough to have a cloth. To brush your teeth, you chew on tree twigs. That's right, twigs. If you're lucky, they're from a tree with medicinal properties you don't even know work. The taste? Imagine tree bark mixed with dirt. The toilet is a hole in the backyard. Toilet paper? What a dream that would be. You use leaves, stones, or on luxury days, scraps of cloth you must wash afterward. And you're the one who washes them. Bathing? Maybe once a month, if that. The water must be heated laboriously in cauldrons, and everyone in the house uses the same water. You'll be the last, so imagine the color and smell of that water when it's your turn. Your hair is greasy, full of tiny visitors crawling around. Lice are your constant companions. You scratch your head while getting dressed, leaving small red streaks on your scalp. And the worst is yet to come. Breakfast doesn't exist. Coffee doesn't exist. What exists is a bowl of watery oatmeal, sometimes with suspicious bits of something that might have been meat. Yesterday. The bowl isn't washed with detergent. It's just rinsed in cold water. The same water everyone drinks, coming from a well shared with animals. It tastes like dirt and something else you prefer not to identify. The bread is hard as rock and has greenish spots. That's not special seasoning. It's mold. But you scrape it off with a dull knife and eat it anyway. Wasting food isn't an option when you might go days without a decent meal. To drink, you have weak beer or dubious water. Beer is actually safer than water, so you drink beer for breakfast, and lunch, and dinner. Everyone drinks it, even children. It's the only way to avoid the diseases that come from contaminated water. While you eat, small rats scurry around the kitchen floor. No one cares anymore. They're part of the medieval decor. Time to dress for work. Your professional clothing is a coarse wool tunic that itches worse than your straw bed. There's no soft cotton or synthetic fabric. It's poorly processed sheep's wool, still smelling of wet animal. The clothes have permanent stains, blood, sweat, spilled food, and substances you prefer not to identify. Washing clothes takes days and rarely removes the stains completely. You put on your leather boots, if you can call those poorly tanned scraps of skin boots. They keep your feet constantly damp and blistered. There are no socks. You wrap rags around your feet and hope they don't slip inside the boots during the day. Your professional lab coat is a leather apron that's seen too much. It's stained with substances and colors nature never intended. It smells like fermented medicines, moldy herbs, and something vaguely chemical that burns your nostrils. In your pocket, you carry your tools, some dull knives, small thick glass vials, and a pouch of dried herbs that crumble between your fingers. And now, finally, you're ready to start your work as a medieval apothecary. And now, finally, you're ready to start your work as a medieval apothecary. You walk along the uneven cobblestone streets, dodging waste being thrown out of windows. The smell of the medieval city is unique. Animal dung, rotting garbage, smoke from bakery ovens, and the sweet, nauseating scent of unwashed bodies. Your apothecary shop is on the ground floor of a creaky wooden building. The sign on the door has symbols only a few can read. Most people are illiterate, so you use rudimentary drawings of plants and bottles. You open the heavy wooden door and are greeted by the peculiar smell of your profession. Dried herbs hanging from the ceiling, jars of suspicious colored liquids, and that sweet aroma of fermenting substances. The shelves are raw wood, full of clay pots and thick glass jars. Each container holds something different: colored powders, viscous liquids, dried plant bits, and some things that move on their own. Rats roam freely among the jars. You don't even care anymore. They're part of the medieval apothecary ecosystem. Sometimes they even help by eating insects that could contaminate your medicines. Light enters through a small, thick, uneven glass window that distorts everything. There's no proper artificial lighting, so you work mostly by natural light, when there is any. A knock on the door. Your first customer has arrived. It's a woman with her face twisted in pain, clutching her belly. She can't explain exactly what she feels. There's no popular medical vocabulary. She just moans and points to her stomach. You don't have x-rays, ultrasounds, or blood tests. Your diagnosis relies on looking, smelling, yes, smelling, and asking a few basic questions. Sometimes you taste the patient's urine to check the body's humor. Yes, you read that right. Tasting urine was part of medieval diagnosis. For this woman, you decide she has excess yellow bile, one of the 4 humors supposedly controlling the human body. The solution? A mixture of bitter herbs fermented in wine, plus a few drops of mercury to purify the blood. Mercury. You are literally poisoning your patients, but you don't know that. To you, mercury is top-quality medicine. The woman pays with 2 eggs and a piece of moldy cheese. There is no standardized money for small transactions. Barter is the most common form of payment. Your next customer is a man with leg wounds that won't heal. Today, any doctor would recognize a bacterial infection and prescribe antibiotics. But you are a medieval apothecary. To you, wounds that won't heal mean corrupted blood that must be purified. Your solution? Leeches. You go to a jar full of murky water where dozens of leeches lazily swim. With bare hands, you grab a few of the fattest and place them directly on the man's wounds. The leeches latch onto the injured skin and start sucking. The man screams in pain, but you reassure him it's a sign they are extracting the bad blood. While the leeches work, you prepare an ointment with rancid pig fat, powdered burnt bones, and fermented urine. Yes, fermented urine. You believe old urine has special healing properties. The smell is indescribable. Imagine the worst odor you've ever smelled. Multiply it by 10, and you're still not close. And the scariest part? You do this every day, convinced you're helping people. Between customers, you prepare your remedies for the day. There's no industrial pharmacy. Every pill, every syrup, every ointment is handmade in small cauldrons over a wood fire. There's no quality control, standardized dosage, or expiration date. You grab a handful of dried herbs, some actually medicinal, others completely useless, some potentially toxic. You mix everything in proportions that just look right to your inexperienced eyes. You add sour wine to make a syrup. The wine is basically vinegar, but it's what you have. You stir with a stained wooden spoon that has never been sterilized. To make pills, you mix powders with crystallized honey and animal fat. You roll small balls with your dirty hands and leave them to dry on the windowsill, where flies occasionally land. Your recipes are stored in your memory or scribbled on dirty parchment. There's no standardization. If you forget an ingredient or mess up the quantity, oh well. The customer has to deal with the consequences. And you do all of this genuinely believing you are healing people. You studied medicine in the best books available at the time. Books that are completely wrong about almost everything. According to your medical knowledge, the human body is governed by 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Any disease is caused by an imbalance of these humors. Fever, excess blood. Solution, bloodletting until the person turns pale. Depression, excess black bile. Solution, make the person vomit violently. Headache, excess phlegm. Solution, purgatives that cause explosive diarrhea. You don't know bacteria, viruses, or parasites exist. To you, diseases are caused by evil airs, sins, or the unfavorable position of the planets. When preparing a remedy, you consult an astrological calendar to choose the most favorable time. Waxing moon for treatments that increase energy, waning moon for purifications. Your knowledge of anatomy comes from drawings that were never verified by real dissections. You believe the liver has 5 lobes, the heart has only 2 chambers, and the brain exists only to cool the blood. And with this knowledge base, you treat people every day. Another knock on the door. This time it's someone important, the wife of the richest merchant in town. She comes accompanied by 2 maids and wears clothes that, by medieval standards, are luxurious. This means she expects special treatment, the most expensive and exotic remedies you have. She complains of female vapors and weakness of the womb. Today, any gynecologist would identify menopause symptoms, but to you, it's a serious case of excess uterine moisture. You prepare your most expensive treatment, a mixture of rhinoceros horn powder, actually painted cow horn, crushed pearls, gold dust, and virgin maiden menstrual blood. Yes, menstrual blood. You buy it from local girls who need the money. You don't question their virginity or hygiene. It's just another ingredient in your medieval arsenal. The mixture is dissolved in imported wine and presented in a borrowed silver cup. The ritual is as important as the remedy. Maybe more important. She pays with real gold coins. You feel like a successful healer. But you don't know you've just sold extremely expensive poison to a woman who only needed hormonal support. Working as a medieval apothecary is not just about treating patients. It's also about surviving the constant dangers of the profession. The church strictly controls what you can or cannot do. Certain treatments are considered witchcraft. If you heal someone too effectively, you might be accused of using demonic magic. On the other hand, if your patients get worse or, well, don't get better, you could be accused of incompetence or poisoning. It's a delicate balance between healing too little and healing too much. In addition, you constantly work with toxic substances. Mercury, arsenic, lead, all considered top-notch medicines. Your hands are always stained with chemicals that soak through your skin. You don't use gloves, a mask, or any protection. You don't know you need to. Your lungs inhale toxic vapors daily. Your life expectancy is dropping with each workday, but you have no way to know. The jars occasionally break, spilling corrosive substances on the dirt floor. You wipe it up with rags and keep working. And you also have to deal with desperate patients who sometimes become violent when treatments don't work. You're not the only healer in town. Your competition includes barbers who perform surgeries. Yes, the same ones who cut hair also pull teeth, amputate limbs, and do bloodletting, with the same dirty tools. Local wise women who use grandma's recipes passed down through generations. Some work by chance, others are completely useless. Some are lethal. Traveling charlatans who promise miracle cures and disappear from town before anyone notices their remedies don't work. Monks who treat diseases only with prayers and holy relics. Surprisingly, they sometimes work better than your chemical treatments. At least they don't poison anyone. To compete, you need to appear more effective than all of them. That means more dramatic treatments, more exotic ingredients, and more impressive rituals. It doesn't matter if they work. It matters if they look like they work. You develop a sharp theatrical sense. You mix ingredients with elaborate gestures, mutter words in Latin you don't fully understand, and use instruments that make impressive noises. Medieval medicine is as much spectacle as it is treatment. Then come the cases you fear the most. Diseases you can't even identify, let alone treat. A child with a high fever and red spots all over their body. Today, any pediatrician would recognize measles and recommend rest, fluids, and fever-reducing medicine. You see excess heat in the blood, caused by evil planetary influences. Your solution? Bloodletting a dehydrated child, followed by cold baths that cause thermal shock. A man with chest pain and difficulty breathing. Clearly heart problems that need urgent modern care. To you, it's blockage of the heart channels by cold vapors. You prescribe a mixture of pepper, ginger, and mercury, heated until steaming. The patient must inhale the toxic fumes to unblock the channels. A pregnant woman with complications. Today, it would be a hospital obstetrics case. You diagnose incorrect womb position and recommend she be tied upside down for several hours a day to reposition the baby by gravity. In all these cases, you act with full conviction that you are helping. You have no way to know you are, at best, wasting time, and at worst, causing irreversible damage. Your reputation as an apothecary depends on the rare and expensive ingredients you can obtain. The more exotic, the better. You maintain contact with traveling merchants who bring substances from distant lands. Egyptian mummy powder is especially valued. Supposedly cures all diseases related to body preservation. You don't know that the Egyptian mummy you buy is actually a mix of bitumen, resins, and pieces of local criminals' corpses. But your customers don't know that either. So everyone's happy. Unicorn horn is another premium ingredient. It's obviously rhinoceros or narwhal horn, but you sell it as unicorn because that's what people want to buy. Fantasy is worth more than reality. Bezoars, stones found in goat stomachs, are considered universal antidotes to poisons. You have a collection of them, each with a made-up story about its magical origin. Phoenix tears, dragon blood, holy water from sacred springs. You know most of these things are fake or substituted, but you pretend to believe because your clients need to believe. Medieval marketing runs on desperate hope and scientific ignorance. Noon, time for a lunch break. You lock the shop and go home, which is upstairs in the same building. There is no separation between professional and personal life. You literally live above your work. Lunch is more substantial than breakfast, a vegetable stew with undefined bits of meat. The meat might be beef, pork, goat, or whatever animal was available at the market today. There's no refrigeration. The meat hangs on hooks until it smells too strong. Then it's cooked with many spices to mask the initial rot flavor. Spices are expensive and used sparingly. Salt is a luxury. Most foods taste like, well, nothing special. You eat with a wooden spoon and a knife. Forks don't exist yet. You use hard bread pieces as plates, then eat the bread soaked in stew grease. While eating, neighbors pass by the window and chat about city events. There's no privacy. Everyone knows what everyone is doing. You hear gossip about other healers, about who's sick, who got better or worse with recent treatments. This information is pure gold to a medieval apothecary. The afternoon brings new challenges. Today's clients have heard about your morning and come with specific expectations. A mother brings a baby with colic. Today, any pediatrician would recommend feeding adjustments, gentle massages, and patience. You see, intestinal worms caused by sour breast milk. Your solution, a mixture of wormwood, rhubarb, and honey that will make the baby vomit violently to expel the worms. A young man with severe acne seeks treatment. Modern dermatology would use specific medications and hygiene advice. To you, they're hot humors rising to the skin's surface. You prepare a face mask with fresh pigeon droppings, sour vinegar, and sulfur powder. The smell is nauseating, but you guarantee it will work in 3 phases of the moon. An old man with arthritis wants relief for his joint pain. Today, he'd get anti-inflammatories and physical therapy. You diagnose excess coldness in the bones and recommend hot horse manure poultices applied directly to the inflamed joints. The heat helps a bit, but the secondary infection that might develop, with each treatment, you feel more confident. You are helping people, curing diseases, relieving suffering. Or at least, that's what you believe. Not all your visitors are customers. Sometimes you receive visits you'd rather avoid. Church representatives occasionally show up to check if you're not practicing diabolic arts. They examine your jars, smell your mixtures, and ask tricky questions about your techniques. You must explain that all your methods are based on the teachings of Hippocrates and Galen, church-approved physicians. You avoid mentioning anything that might sound like magic or witchcraft. Tax collectors are also frequent visitors. They want their share of everything you earn. Since most of your payments are in barter, eggs, cheese, fabrics, they take whatever they can carry. Sometimes other apothecaries from neighboring towns appear. Officially, they come to share knowledge. In practice, they're spying on your recipes and trying to steal your trade secrets. You develop professional paranoia. You hide your best recipes, disguise special ingredients, and never reveal all the steps of a complex treatment. Competition between medieval healers is fierce and sometimes dangerous. The sun begins to set. There's no public lighting in medieval streets. When it gets dark, the city becomes dangerous. You must finish all your daily preparations before natural light disappears completely. Working by candlelight is expensive, dangerous, and inaccurate. You organize your jars, sort of, clean your instruments, and prepare mixtures that need to ferment overnight. Some medieval recipes take days or weeks to become ready. You check that all containers are well sealed, not only to preserve their contents, but to prevent rats, insects, and other unwanted visitors from contaminating your remedies. You count the day's money, coins from different places with different metal purities mixed with payments in goods. You have to evaluate the real value of each transaction. You write down, if you can write, or memorize which treatments were given to which patients. If someone gets better, you want to remember exactly what you used. If someone gets worse, well, you want an excuse ready. You mentally prepare for the next day. Which ingredients are running out? Which recipes need adjustments? What new treatments can you try? The evening meal is similar to lunch, but with the family. Wife, children, and sometimes relatives gather around the rough wooden table. The conversation revolves around everyone's work. Your wife talks about household chores, spinning wool, baking bread, tending the small animals in the yard. Your children report their activities, helping with chores, learning trades, playing with toys made of wood and rags. You share the day's interesting cases, always omitting details that might worry the family. You talk about successful cures, rare ingredients you managed to buy, important customers you attended. You don't mention the cases that went badly, the treatments that seem to make patients worse, or the doubts that are starting to creep into your mind about your method's effectiveness. After dinner, if there's any time before bed, you might study your medical books by expensive candlelight. The books are handwritten copies, full of copy errors and dubious interpretations of ancient texts. Sometimes neighbors visit to chat, play primitive dice, or simply escape the loneliness of medieval nights. Social life is limited but intense. Everyone knows everyone in the community. Lying in your straw bed in total darkness, your mind processes the day. Did you really help anyone today? It's hard to know. Some patients left your shop seemingly relieved, but that might have just been the psychological effect of receiving attention. Others left visibly worse, but you convinced them it was a normal part of the healing process. First it gets worse, then it gets better. It's an excuse you use often. You start to notice disturbing patterns. Patients who follow your prescriptions exactly sometimes develop new and strange symptoms. Others, who ignore your advice, seem to recover on their own. But you push those doubts away. Your masters taught you that medicine is a complex art full of mysteries. Results aren't always predictable. Besides, you need to make a living. Your family depends on your reputation as a healer. Questioning your own methods too much would be professionally and financially dangerous. You fall asleep to the sound of rats running through the walls, cats meowing on the roof, and your family snoring in the shared room. Tomorrow will be another day of trying to heal people with methods that don't work. Some days bring challenges that test the limits of your knowledge and courage. A mysterious epidemic hits the city. People develop high fevers, dark spots on their skin, and coughs echoing through the stone streets. Everyone looks to you, the local apothecary, expecting a miraculous solution. You prepare your most powerful recipe, a mix of every herb you can find, blended with holy wine and a few drops of your own blood to give personal strength to the remedy. Find. The result is a dark green potion with floating bits. The smell is like rotten fish mixed with wilted flowers, but you distribute it with absolute confidence, convinced it's the ultimate cure. Curiously, people who can't afford your expensive remedy end up recovering faster than those who take your special potion. You explain this as divine intervention for the poor and keep preparing more doses of your questionable mixture. The epidemic passes on its own, as they always do. You get the credit for the cure. Your reputation grows even more. Over time, you develop tricks to protect your reputation without admitting your limitations. When someone shows up with symptoms you don't recognize, you use a foolproof technique. Blame the planets. Ah, yes. Clearly Saturn's influence in conjunction with Mars. Very common this time of year. If a treatment fails completely, it's the patient's fault. You didn't follow the instructions exactly as I prescribed, or you must have committed some sin that blocked the cure. To impress wealthy clients, you create elaborate rituals. You light candles in a circle, mutter Latin words you memorized without understanding, and use metal instruments that make impressive noises when stirring your mixtures. The show is more important than the actual medicine. You learn that people want to feel special, want to believe their problem is unique and complex, deserving an equally unique and complex treatment. Simple, cheap remedies don't sell well. Expensive exotic mixtures with fantastic stories are coveted by wealthy customers. Not all your competition comes from other professional healers. Old ladies in the neighborhood start gaining a reputation for simple cures that work. They use ancient recipes based on local plants, without adding exotic or poisonous ingredients. One cures stomach pain with warm mint tea. Another relieves muscle pain with hot water and salt compresses. A third treats small wounds by washing them with boiled water and covering with clean cloth. Absurdly simple methods that, by chance, make sense. You secretly watch and feel intrigued. Why don't your complex mixtures with dozens of ingredients always work better than these basic home solutions? But you can't admit this publicly. Your reputation depends on the complexity of your treatments. If people find out that simple tea sometimes works better than mummy powder with mercury, you start secretly simplifying some treatments, but you keep charging high prices and telling elaborate stories about the ingredients' origins. Sometimes you stumble upon something that actually works, completely by accident. One day, while preparing an ointment with honey for a wealthy client, you drop a piece of green moldy bread into the mixture. Instead of throwing it away, ingredients are expensive, you remove the bread but leave the ointment with slight traces of the mold. The client uses the ointment on a wound that hadn't healed in weeks. Miraculously, the wound begins to heal quickly and without infection. You don't understand why, but you mentally note that green moldy bread should be added to ointments for wounds. You invent a story about purifying properties of mold blessed by angels. Other happy accidents happen. A mixture that fermented too much and became a weak natural antibiotic, an herb you picked by mistake, but that has real anti-inflammatory properties. A cleaning technique you adopted by chance that reduces infections. You collect these accidental successes without understanding the science behind them. Your cure rate improves slightly, which increases your reputation even more. But you keep mixing the methods that work with those that don't, creating a therapeutic cocktail of dubious effectiveness. Years pass. You grow old in the profession, and your perspective begins to change. Your hair, already thinned by lice, is now gray and even sparser. Your hands, constantly exposed to toxic chemicals, develop strange spots and sometimes tremble. You've started noticing that many fellow apothecaries die relatively young. Some develop chronic coughs, others have liver problems, some simply quietly disappear from the scene. But you attribute this to the hard life of a healer and the necessary sacrifices to save lives. You don't connect it to the daily exposure to mercury, arsenic, and other poisons you handle as medicine. Your memory isn't as good anymore. Sometimes you mix up recipes, forget ingredients, or give the same treatment twice to the same patient. Older customers start treating you as a respected community figure, the wise old apothecary who knows medicinal secrets from decades past. You like this reputation and develop a mysterious air, speaking in riddles and quoting Latin proverbs that sound impressive but don't mean much. A young man shows up wanting to learn the trade from you. From a poor family, he sees medicine as a chance for social mobility. You accept the apprentice mainly because you need someone to carry heavy jars and clean the apothecary's mess. Teaching is strange. For the first time, you must explain out loud why you do what you do. And you realize many of your reasons are simply, "It's always been done this way," or "My master taught me." The boy asks uncomfortable questions. Why do we use mercury if sometimes people get worse? Why don't we wash our hands between patients? Why do the recipes change depending on how much money the customer has? You answer with authority, but inside the questions bother you. You've never thought about these things so directly. The apprentice is young and enthusiastic. He wants to experiment, test, modify old recipes. You constantly have to restrain him. Don't change anything. These recipes have been tested for centuries. But secretly, you're curious about some of his suggestions. What if washing hands really worked? What if some complex mixtures were unnecessary? On calm afternoons, when few customers show up, you catch yourself thinking about your career. How many people have you actually cured? How many got worse because of your treatments? It's impossible to know. There are no statistics, control, or systematic follow-up. You remember specific cases, the child with high fever who got better, but was it because of your syrup, or simply because children's fevers usually pass on their own? The merchant with stomach pains who never complained again. But he also changed his diet at the same time, by coincidence. The pregnant woman with complications who had a healthy baby. Despite completely ignoring your recommendations and following the local midwife's advice, you develop a pragmatic philosophy. If the patient gets better, it was the treatment. If they get worse, it's divine will. It's the only way to keep your sanity in a profession where results are so unpredictable. And in the end, you provide something valuable. Hope. In an era where life is hard and medicine almost non-existent, you offer the feeling that someone is trying to help. Maybe that has value on its own, regardless of the real effectiveness of the treatments. Today, you woke up later. Your joints hurt more than before, the result of decades carrying heavy cauldrons and bending over steaming mixtures. Your apprentice has already opened the shop and served the first customers. You supervise from a distance, intervening only when he makes serious mistakes or tries to innovate too much. The treatments have become routine. Headache, light bloodletting, and bitter herbal tea. Digestive problems, mild purgative and porridge diet. Wounds, clean with wine and honey ointment. You notice you've greatly simplified your practice over the years. Fewer exotic ingredients, fewer elaborate rituals, fewer grand promises. Maybe experience has taught something after all. Older customers trust you completely. New ones sometimes question your methods, comparing them to younger healers using modern techniques. You don't mind. You've seen medical fads come and go dozens of times. Today it's bat blood. Tomorrow it will be Saint bone powder, then some herb discovered in distant lands. Medieval medicine is like that, circular, repetitive, based more on tradition than on concrete results. The sun sets once more over your little medieval apothecary. You arrange the jars one last time today, with automatic gestures developed over decades. Your apprentice has swept the floor, organized the dried herbs, and prepared mixtures for the next day. He's learning quickly, but still has much to discover about the mysteries of ancient medicine. You go upstairs, where your wife has already prepared dinner. The conversation is the same as always. Who got sick in the neighborhood? Which treatments worked? Which ingredients are getting expensive? Your children have grown up and become adults. One became a merchant, another learned carpentry. None wanted to follow your footsteps in medicine. Maybe they were wise. You lie down on the same straw bed you've slept in for decades. It doesn't itch as much anymore, or maybe you've just gotten used to it. The smell of the house is familiar. Dried herbs, wood smoke, and that indefinable scent of lives lived in small spaces. Tomorrow will be another identical day. Other patients, other questionable treatments, other hopes placed in your chemical-stained hands. But today, at least, you helped some people feel better. And in an era when that was rare, maybe that's enough. And so your day as a medieval apothecary ends. You lived 12 hours in a time when surviving was already a daily victory. When medicine was more art than science, more hope than effectiveness, more theater than treatment. Now, take a deep breath and slowly open your eyes to the modern world. You have clean water coming out of a tap, antibiotics that truly cure infections, anesthetics for painless surgeries, medicines with precise dosages and proven effects. Your bed has a soft mattress, clean pillows, sheets washed with bacteria-killing soap. Your bathroom has toilet paper, soap, and a flush that carries waste far from your home. Your food was stored in refrigerators, inspected by health agencies, prepared in clean kitchens. Your water was treated, filtered, and tested dozens of times before reaching your home. Doctors today study for decades, use equipment that can see inside your body, and prescribe medicines tested on thousands of people before reaching you. You complain when your health plan takes a week to book an appointment. The medieval apothecary prayed his patients survived until next Sunday. You get irritated when a medicine is expensive at the pharmacy. The medieval apothecary charged in eggs and pieces of cheese, and even then, many couldn't afford it. So next time you're at the modern pharmacy, waiting in line with air conditioning, clean floors, and organized shelves full of effective medications, remember the medieval apothecary, mixing poisonous powders in a stinking room, convinced he was saving lives with fermented urine and bat blood. Remember that modern medicine isn't perfect, but it's a miracle compared to what existed just a few centuries ago. And when you lie down in your clean bed, with your soft pillows, in your heated home, taking your precisely dosed medicine with a glass of safe drinking water, silently give thanks that you weren't born in the era when being a pharmacist literally meant playing mad scientist with people's lives. Now, close your eyes. Let this strange story lull you to sleep in your modern, comfortable world. Dream of clean laboratories, legible prescriptions, and medicines that really work. Sleep well, knowing that if you wake up with a headache tomorrow, you won't need leeches or mercury to feel better. Just a simple paracetamol tablet, the medieval apothecary would consider pure magic. Good night, time traveler. Rest in peace in your age of everyday medical miracles.